Welcome back. So, now we start with our next subject, which we started discussion on inventory management in the last section itself, last session rather. And just before we go to inventory management, if you remember, I mentioned that this needs an extra attention, because inventory management, transportation management, these are very key to any supply chain process. What we are going to discuss in this session are the basic inventory management process. What is inventory management? I would like to conduct a session later on, not immediately, where we are going to see what sort of advancement that has been made in inventory management. The traditional methods of managing an inventory in a warehouse is long gone. There is a lot of application of technology, reduction of manpower, introduction of technology, conveyors, automated system, etc., and also the kind of the data that are generated by these automated system, which helps in doing inventory management far more efficiently than before. Before we proceed with from where we left last session, it is important for us to again quickly recap what we discussed. So, we discussed what is the role of inventory, what are different types of inventory, what are the categories of inventory, what are the functions of inventory, inclinations. With this, we are also going to add how material management is closely connected to inventory management, and also dependent and independent inventory. So, the role of inventory is what? A stock. Why does a company need a stock? At every stage, there is a need for a particular stage of logistics where it needs to constantly feed. So, it could be a working stock, it has to constantly feed the next stage or the next function. So, that is the role. It's also it works as an asset, as a very significant asset of a company. It primarily helps to control the demand and supply of a particular company. Any excess stock will result in a loss, any shortage in stock will result in a loss of business. So, simple economics, there is a demand and there is a supply. Inventory management plays a very central and pivotal role to ensure there is a balance between the demand and supply of a product. So, these are the role of the inventory: assets, the flow, the units. It not only supports the production, it also supports the marketing team. So, basically stock is required. What kind of stock, what are the models, we are going to discuss later. Now, what are the types of inventory? Now, when a product is produced, it needs raw materials. So, you need inventory of raw materials. When a product is made, it is made up of different components or semi-finished good, or we can say work in progress. So, you need an inventory for that as well. So, there is an inventory for items which are required to maintain the plant, that is also a kind of inventory. So, there are different types of inventory. There are inventory which is called a pipeline inventory, that means goods which are about to leave Inventory management of long term inventories are different than the pipeline inventories, because pipeline inventory management should be done in such a way that they can be easily moved out of the system of the facility for the customers. So, these are the different types of inventory. When we say categories of inventory, what do you mean by category? That means when an inventory, when a stock is kept, or when inventory is kept by a supplier of good, that is one category. Inventory is also maintained by the manufacturer, that is a kind of inventory. From manufacturer, the distributor also maintains a certain amount of inventory, they also need inventory management, and similarly the retailers also need. But the volume and the process of managing inventory for the supplier or the manufacturer or the distributor or the retailer is quite different. For example, we had told you that the distributor generally likes to keep a stock, a high stock, because they have to ultimately distribute to the retailer. But for a retailer, they do not, their inclination is for a low volume inventory, because for them the inventory has to move continuously through their system, because they do not have generally very large warehouses. So, it is the customers, for instance, you have a store in your area, you will find the inventories are limited and they always want the inventories to be in cycle. What are the functions of inventory? What does inventory do? It helps in the work progress. What does an inventory do? There are something called decoupling inventory. What is decoupling? There is something called a safety inventory. There is something called a psychic inventory. So, these are the kinds of inventory that you have. You have cyclical inventory, you have work in progress. So, these are the function. What do you mean decoupling? So, there are different, we have just mentioned a few just to highlight the function that the activity that a stock would do. When you say decoupling, in case for some reason there is a stoppage in the production process, what happens? So, in that case, the inventory that are used at a time when there is the production has come to a halt or production has become slow or whatever it is, this inventory then helps the company to run its business. Safety inventory as well, when you have inventory, when the actual inventory, the consumption is over, when you get into a stage where you have zero inventory, every company would like to have a safety stock, a safe inventory, which may be used when the lead time is quite large, and we had discussed lead time before. When you have ordered your material from your supplier and for some reason that supply arrives much later than what you desired or what you anticipated, now your business, you can reach a stage of a stock out. That means you have no stock. So, customers come, but you have no stock to meet the customer demand. So, there will be a business loss. In order to prevent that, customers have safety stock. What is a psychic inventory? Even though there is no demand, in order to attract customers, there are retailers who, particularly the retailers who display or who maintain certain inventory to create a demand for that particular product. Same with work in progress and cyclic inventory for products which are seasonal in nature. Okay. Then we have also discussed about inclinations of different companies towards inventory. We are not going to discuss this in detail. When we say inclination, a marketing department would have a high inclination, a finance department will have a low inclination, a design or a design or a engineering department will have a low inventory, because a high inventory, and if there is a change in the feature, if the demand a different feature is required, if the competitor has come out with a better feature, then the excess production will become obsolete. So, different functional groups in a company views or desires different levels of inventory. Production team the procurement team, they require high inventory, because for procurement they are always looking for purchase at a lesser price. So, generally suppliers, they provide discounts, they sell products at a lesser rate if you buy at large volumes. So, in order to get the benefit of the discounts, sometimes procurement team buy in large volume, but in the process they create a high volume of demand. Okay. When you say material management, inventory, when you create an inventory, you have to answer these three questions: when, how much, when to procure, how much to procure, right. So, this is what we have to understand when we come to material management, as to how much is to be produced and when you require them, and where should you buy. These are the three areas of consideration. When you talk of dependent and independent inventory, what is a dependent and independent inventory? Is quite simple. Inventory of I will decide how much I should stock, will depend upon whether I am producing a particular component which will be used as a raw material or a component for a finished good. We can give an example of a car tire maybe. So, a producer or a manufacturer of a car tire will create an inventory, because he is dependent upon the manufacture or the number of the cars that the automobile companies plan to produce. Same thing with every components or every automobile raw materials which are a part of a finished product, because they are dependent on the finished product. So, their inventory will depend upon, you have seen this in food and industry as well. The inventory of a particular food item will depend upon how much, to what extent, to what quantity it is required by that particular company to manufacture or produce a particular food item. So, there are different examples or several examples of items which are considered to be maintaining a dependent inventory, because that decision on inventory is not in isolation. They are connected to the inventory or the forecast or the production amount or production plan of a particular company. So, these are the 7 areas that needs to be considered, to be understood when we do inventory management. Now, we had why inventory management is also important is not because it largely determines how promptly or efficiently a supply chain would function, right from the stage of supply to the finished product. So, there is something which is called inventory cost, and we have discussed last time, we have an ordering cost and we have a holding cost. So, ordering cost, do not want to get extended on this, because we have already discussed in the last session what is ordering cost. So, when a company procures a particular item, so he has to understand that right from placing the order to getting the shipment delivered at his warehouse, there are costs involved, right from placing the order, placing tender, processing, transportation, etc., unloading at its facility, counting, inspection, all these are involved in ordering costs. Now, once the shipment has been delivered, the shipment or the material has to be stored in the warehouse, in the facility as inventory for some time. Now, holding cost, or we also call it carrying cost. Now, in both the cases there are two categories again. So, one is a fixed and the one is a variable cost. So, typically let us just discuss what falls under variable cost in ordering. It could be the freight, it could be the transportation charges, that is variable, because we are not ordering the same quantity every time and our freight cost is directly proportional to the volume or the weight of the shipment that is being procured and delivered to my warehouse. So, that is a variable cost as far as the ordering cost is concerned. What could be a fixed cost for ordering? Whether you order 1 unit or 5 units, you still need to pay rent. That is a fixed cost for holding. That means, when I have to hold the material in my warehouse, irrespective of the volume that I am holding in my warehouse, I will have to pay the rent, I have to pay for insurance. Insurance could also be a variable cost, because the insurance also depends upon the volume and the value of the item I am storing. So, similarly there are different types of costs which fall under, which can be termed as either fixed or variable. So, ordering cost has both variable and fixed component, holding cost also has both fixed and variable component. Just look at this image for a while. Both of them have fixed ordering as well as carrying cost, both has fixed and variable components. Okay. We can have several other examples of the different costs which are can be termed as fixed or variable under holding or ordering cost. We have also seen, and we are going to quickly go through, that the different phases of inventory cost. We have seen the production line, the production process goes through, and we discussed this last time. We are not going to. So, you have a raw material and then you have, so this goes as far cost is concerned, this is time. So, with time the process of production goes this way. You have raw materials, you store the raw materials, then these raw materials are, they are used, the raw materials are used to first let me draw this. So, this stage is called fabrication. The fabricated product then goes into the storage again. Then from storage it goes to the semi assembly. The semi assembled product are then again goes to storage. Then the actual assembly happens. Once the assembly happens and the finished product is produced, it goes to storage. Any cost above this, so this is raw material cost. From here to here, from the stage of raw material, so this particular phase will give us operation cost, labor cost. What would this give us is the admin cost. So, from here to here, from here to here, what is we call it throughput time, and this is the production process. So, if you see, it is not sacrosanct, it is not necessarily applicable to every organization. So, broadly in a warehouse or in a facility, in a plant, you get the raw material, you fabricate, you semi-assemble, you store. So, after you go through every operation process, this is an operation process, this is an operation process, and this is an operation process. So, after every operation process, you need a storage, you need an inventory rather, you need inventory. I should not be writing storage over here, I should be just mention inventory. So, you have raw material inventory, you have fabricated inventories, fabricated items inventory, semi-assembled product inventory, and the assembled product inventory. After this, there is no operation, no production, but the only cost that the plant will keep or the facility will keep incurring is the administration cost, which is rent, which is electricity, which is manpower, salary, etc., etc. So, this basically gives you the cost over a period of time at every stage in the production process. We had discussed, we have mentioned that different inventory management models, the EOQ, which is the classical model, then you have advanced deterministic EOQ model, and you have the time period model. In advanced deterministic model, you had back order system, you had with quantity discounts, then you had reorder point, and you had service inventory with service level. We are not going to discuss all the models in detail. Here you have fixed time period model, fixed time period, you have fixed time period with safety stock, and then you had economic production quantity. So, these are the basically the different models, and as last time we said that we are going to discuss just a few of them and also touch the others, so that you have a clarity on all the models. You have all the study materials which give you a detail of all the models, and it is important for you to study EOQ model, quantity discount, back ordering, reorder point, and then you safety stock, EPQ. Today we are going to discuss in detail the EOQ model, that is the economic order quantity. Now, what is an order quantity? So, a company would order. Now, what are the companies we are talking of? It could be a manufacturer ordering from a supplier. It could be a distributor ordering from a manufacturer, or a retailer ordering from a distributor, or the supplier ordering from his supplier, his or her supplier. So, at every point of time there is a procurement. So, we are ordering certain materials for our own use, and what is that order quantity? How much should I order every time, which will ensure an optimum cost or optimum inventory cost for me? we cannot forget these two cost, ordering cost and holding cost. What is that quantity that should ensure that the sum of these two costs are minimum for me? Very interesting to understand that if I order in large numbers, then I am ordering, the frequency of my order are less. So, the number of transportation involved with large quantities are much less. Suppose a company orders 1 ton of material, just a hypothetical figure, 1 ton of material. He can order that 1 ton at a single lot, or he can break up this 1 ton into 5 lots of at the rate of 200 kilos each. Now, in this case, he is incurring a transportation cost which is just once, whereas here, so he is applying economies of scale, and here he has to incur, or he has to go through several transportation a number of times. He has to order a number of times. The lot will come in a number of times during the year or a particular period. But you have to understand, when he orders in bulk, if he orders 1 ton of material, then his holding cost is going to go up, because all the material may not be required at that point of time. He may have ordered 1 ton, because if you remember, we discussed that in procurement sometimes company order in bulk in large quantities to avail what is called a quantity discount. There are companies who provide discounts if you marginalize, and we have seen that happening everywhere. But in the process, he is enhancing or is increasing his inventory level, and hence his holding that inventory goes up. Whereas, if he orders in smaller quantity, his transportation cost may go up, his ordering cost will go up. But see, since he is ordering in smaller quantities, that means he is applying a just in time process, his holding cost will come down, because he will procure or order whatever that is required at the moment, get it consumed, delivered, and then again order the second lot. So there is a balancing act over here. So, keeping both this into consideration, let us derive, a company derives what is called economic order quantity. Before that, I would like to very quickly recap a very fundamental phenomena which is called average inventory. Just for your recap, we have seen that a company orders Q amount of quantity in a particular order. After consumption during a particular period, the inventory becomes 0, he reorders, again he gets Q quantity, again after consumption the inventory level becomes 0, it goes on like this. So, the inventory over here is Q at this point, and it is 0 at this point. It is again Q at this point and 0 at this point, Q at this point and 0 at this point. So, what is the average inventory? The average inventory, simple arithmetic mean, will give us Q plus 0 is equal to 2, which is Q by 2. That is the average inventory that a particular company, this Q will vary from company to company in terms of units, in terms of value, whatever it may be. Now, let us derive EOQ, because the concept of EOQ is quite important, and as I said, EOQ is one of the areas that we are going to discuss in detail. Assume D is the total demand of a particular product throughout the year per annum. Q is the order quantity. That means every time a customer orders, a particular company orders, his lot size is Q. Let S be the ordering cost per order, let H be the holding cost per unit of inventory. So, what do we have to derive? We have to derive the economic order quantity for which the summation of ordering as well as holding cost is kept minimum. Now, what is the ordering cost over here? How much am I ordering? How many times am I ordering? Suppose the total demand is 1000 units, which is D, and every time I order, this is just a hypothetical example, and every time I order a lot size of 50. So, how many times do I order? 1000 divided by 50, I am ordering 20 times. That means I am ordering D by Q times. That is the number of times I am ordering. Now, every time I order, how much do I pay? I pay S, rupees, dollars, etc. I rupees S. So, what is my total ordering cost? This is my total ordering cost. Now, I have a holding cost. So, this is over. Now, holding cost. How much am I holding? I cannot derive, I cannot calculate my inventory or holding inventory per day, per week. So, on a particular period of time, I am holding on an average of Q by 2, that is the average inventory we discussed. And per unit, I am spending, sorry, this. So, what is my total cost? My total cost is OC plus HC, which is equal to D by Q into S plus Q by 2 into H. That is my total cost. If I use the derivative, I will get what is called Q dashed, that is my optimum order, which is 2 ds by H. We are not going to go into the derivative, we will not discuss the derivative. So, it is 2 ds by H. Just keep looking at the so, if at all if you are given asked to derive the economic order quantity of a particular firm, and if you are given these values, the demand, the lot size, the ordering cost per unit per order, the holding cost per unit, you can straight away arrive at the EOQ as root over 2 ds by H. When you apply this Q dashed into over here, you get the total optimum cost of inventory. So, this is the TCQ, that means this is the total cost. When you derive this with respect to Q, you arrive at an optimum or the economical order quantity. So, the economic order for the quantity, that means the optimum lot size that a company should use every time he orders has to be root over demand into the ordering cost unit divided by holding cost per unit, and that value of Q when inserted in total cost will give us the minimum total cost of the company. So, that is EOQ. So, very, very important. Area of inventory cost. Next time when we meet, there are some more areas of inventory management that we need to discuss, but we need to discuss a very important area of inventory management at risk. Now, what do you mean by risk? Risk, uncertainty, and this is particularly visible in global supply chain. When the demand, the supply is uncertain, where should I buy from, where should I store, how much should I store, what will be my demand. So, these are the areas that creates a lot of uncertainty within the company, and managing the inventory at this particular under this circumstances is called inventory management and risk. We are also going to briefly discuss the other models, particularly the quantity discounts. We are going to touch base upon EPQ, and we are like EOQ, we are also going to discuss in detail EPQ. We are also going to discuss about what a back order is, what is a safety stock, how a company orders when it applies a system of safety stock, and then once we are done with that, we are going to discuss inventory management at a single period. It's a very interesting area of inventory management. All this, and once we are done with inventory management, we go to our next important chapter of forecasting. That is all for today. I hope to see you next Tuesday, as we do not have any sessions this Saturday. I have given you my mail ID. Again, I repeat, please ask questions if you want to, and I will get back to you next Tuesday with the other topics. Thank you very much, and have a good week ahead of you till such time that I see you next Tuesday. Thank you.